Welcome to the Patterns Podcast. This is Ben Woznicki. I'm from Highland Software.
I'm Tom Cagley from Tom Cagley and Associates.
There we go. And we're talking about no projects.
Hashtag no projects.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. So what are the basics of no projects, Tom?
So hashtag no projects is truly a rejection of the classic everything has a hard stop and end date.
Yeah.
We blow up the teams every time. We reform it. It takes a much more product metaphor.
Yeah, we have to do all the budgeting. It's very heavyweight. Takes a long time to shift gears.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to argue that you don't do some budgeting, but you can budget for a product and let a product owner figure out what really needs to happen and that it is a continuous flow.
Yeah, it's a stream. That's right. All right. So we've got two different metaphors here. On one side, we have projects. So projects, at least in the typical PMI sort of sense, it's bounded by start and end dates. There's this fixed horizon.
Hey, if we were building a new building, we would know that you got to dig the thing, and someday people are going to live in it. But if we took a product metaphor to that building, right, it would be, hey, we're going to build it, and then people are going to live in it, we're going to maintain it, and someday we're going to bulldoze it down and put something else there.
So this is over the life cycle of the product,
absolutely,
rather than
bingo.
That's right. So on the project side, we've got very specific narrow scope, we've got a very narrow budget. And then on the product side,
we fund capacity. We're going to put this much into this product. Ben, I don't know about you, but over my career, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, you can only so much that we can do this year in this project. We'll do a phase 2. And phase 2 was usually metaphor or code for, well, maybe we'll do it someday over the rainbow.
So there's this panic, I better get my feature in or it's never going to happen.
That's why everything was number one priority, right?
Right.
And that's why we ended up with big bang deliveries.
Yep.
Boom, we get it done at the end, everything went in. Whereas with this metaphor,
product, you want these continuous little increments where we can start to get smaller amounts of feedback, but feedback on a working thing.
Absolutely. Evolution becomes an important thing to think about when you're taking a product metaphor. We're going to have a backlog. We're going to continue to evolve it over time. And that if something pops up that's more important on that backlog,
that's right,
we do it.
Yeah. Don't get too caught up in the budgeting piece. Right. So trying to plan an evolution is a little farcical on its face. Like, how would you know what it's going to hit?
And that's why things like roadmaps, if you look at product roadmaps, you know that what's in front of you is in relative granular detail, but what's out 2 or 3 quarters is less granular, a little bit fuzzier, and if you go out in time, it's nebulous.
Yeah, so we're going from a team that's spun up and broken apart based on that project to where we've got longer term. Why might we want a long-term team?
So that we build knowledge and we build understanding amongst the players, and so that we can capture that and get better and higher productivity.
So we're really investing in capability for the organization.
Absolutely.
So some of the practical implications here.
Yeah, this stuff is not easy, right? Mm-hmm. We have, over the years, people have, their project manager and their project definition tattooed on themselves. With this new metaphor, we're in essence saying, hey, look, product owners, stakeholders, you don't have to get it all piled up in front of you right at the beginning. You don't have to know everything up front.
Yeah.
You can continue to learn and continue to build into that backlog as you go forward.
So that helps with that cognitive dissonance that we see when we go into organizations. They've got, here's how we do work. And then they say, oh, but we want to go agile. We're going to go agile. How long is that going to take? What's my budget need to be for going agile?
Well, not only that, but at the same time, then they apply it to projects. And it's like, well, you can't add anything to that backlog. That's scope creep. In Agile, they're really, again, unless you're doing something crazy with individual sprints, that backlog is dynamic. There is no such thing as scope creep.
Yep. And that is a fair point around not wanting to thrash the team with too much change. There's a little bit of a balance there, but we do need to embrace those new requirements as they come out.
Well,
that's personally challenging.
But very frankly, if we're resetting and replanning every 2 weeks or every 1 week, then that's something. You use the term cognitive dissonance. That helps people to take a different view and therefore not to get too thrashed over it.
Yeah. Yep. You need to build up that trust to be able to take these small stories one-on-one. So how about some of the history?
Yeah, well, this is actually pretty cool, right? Hashtag no projects isn't something that has just popped up over the past few years. We've seen attributions go back in time. Joshua James, actually it's Joshua Arnold, but they have talked about this as far back as 2013. So people recognize pretty early in the whole idea of Agile that this metaphor that we were using before, this whole idea of projects, was sort of colliding and causing a problem.
That it will. All right, so some of the common challenges and antidotes. Basically, first thing you were referring to there is a governance structure.
Yeah, you've used the term budgeting a few times.
Yeah,
budgeting is definitely a governance structure. So things like having product management, product owners, product manager, if you're actually a product firm, product owners, having those people own the actual backlog and understand where they're spending their money, that I think changes the fundamental view of how you're approaching what you're delivering.
Yeah, having that role filled is, I think, the critical first step there. It's not going to solve everything, but you have to have at least. Well,
I think it does. It does get rid of some of this all or nothing, doesn't it?
It opens the door to have someone to negotiate with instead of the organization. Right.
Hey, you signed off on this document.
That's right.
We can't do anything else without having a variance.
Yeah, that could be challenging.
A bigger issue that I've seen over and over, and I think this is actually the harder of the three, is that you get these little applications that are designated as products, and you can't really have standing capacity to actually deal with it.
By that, you mean can't dedicate a team to it.
It's like, okay, little application XYZ that probably needs to be changed 4 or 5 times a year. I'm not having a team sit around waiting for some new stuff. Different when things sit in different time frames in terms of product evolution. You don't have to have as much capacity. That's a little bit harder to think through.
Yeah, so the approach that I've seen help when we have these small teams is to cluster the products together into a value stream. So we have each value stream has its own portfolio, in essence.
Yeah, I like that too.
And then keep an eye on the horizon for each of those applications. Not everything needs to stay around for forever. It takes a lot of discipline to recognize when it's time to sunset something and to get it off your radar, but that opens up capacity.
I hate to admit it, but I still have code that I wrote in 1980s that is still running. So
wow.
Still good.
Wow.
So maybe stuff may stay around forever.
Oh my God. Hopefully it keeps making money, at least for somebody.
I don't know.
Yeah. So folks want to engage and talk more about this hashtag no projects thing. You can reach out to us in the YouTube comments, in the video responses. You can also publish to other platforms. Just let us know. You can let us know. Where can folks reach us, Tom?
Twitter is one, at Ben Woz, at T Cagley, and email.
I've heard about this email thing.
So have I.
Yep, very good.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Have a good one.